After all these weeks, after all the rumors, after all the speculation, after all the innuendo, is Cody Rhodes backing out of WrestleMania 38? I am Luke Owen, DAD, the real Jam That Champion, and I'm joined by Tempo T. Yu-Gi-Oh! How are you, Tempest?
Boom. Tempest, the Great Okan stan. My new favorite wrestler.
Isn't it delightful? Okay, so I was a Rev Pro regular, right?
Yeah.
I haven't been since the pandemic, but I used to go to Rev Pro a lot. And Great Okan was booked on like every Rev Pro show. And I went to a buttload of Rev Pro shows where the Great Okan was booked, and everyone was like, oh my God, this guy's the worst. Like, this is the absolute dirt worst. And he got booed out of the building, and it never got over. And every time they brought it out, I thought, well, this will be the week where they reveal that it's a big joke. And we'll all be like, oh, I get it now. He's supposed to be rubbish. And then all of a sudden, Great Okan just got real good. And now he's like saying really cool things. Like, do you know what? Fair play to you.
Oh, I don't even care about his in-ring work at this point. I'm all in on this story that broke today, where I don't know if you've even heard this, where he like fought off a pedophile from grabbing a young girl and like bought her pancakes until her parents arrived and like kept her calm and everything. And I was like, good for you, being just a good Samaritan and a good person. It's like that. There's the one story of like of Bryan Danielson like putting the dude in the label lock who was like breaking into his house. I just want more wrestlers being like superheroes, you know?
Yeah.
And
now you're starting to sound like the Undertaker. So back when men were men, we're carrying knives and guns in our bags.
Yeah, Great Okan's a real man.
Yeah,
a real man.
Tough guys.
Yeah, we've got, after all those rumors and speculation, we've got more rumors and speculation about Cody.
Well, let's dive into it. This episode is brought to you by the WrestleTalk Magazine. Oh, Tempest. Look at it. Delightful. The WrestleTalk Magazine.
I've got one too.
You've got last month's issue. I've got the most current issue right here with Reigns and Lesnar on the cover. But this is a physical edition of this because I'm nearly 40 years old. So, of course, I like physical versions. However, you can get the digital version of the WrestleTalk the WrestleTalk magazine for just £1 Great British pounds or £10 for an entire year's subscription. This is a limited time offer, and spending that £1 greatly supports WrestleTalk. We've come up with the most affordable way for you to support WrestleTalk and buy the magazine. Not only that, the digital version comes out 7 days before the print edition does. Our aim is to make the readers of the WrestleTalk magazine the person in every wrestling conversation that knows more than their friends about the business and its true inner workings. It's a great maker, and this is a fabulous issue this time. So it's one singular pound and it can be yours.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no real reason not to do it. If you're a fan of wrestling, if you're a fan of reading, if you just want to read about wrestling, combine those two things. What better place to do that than with the WrestleTalk magazine? It is a really fun read, though. Like any edition of it doesn't have to be this month's, but buy this month's. But you won't be disappointed with any issue of them.
So I heard about one of the articles that was in this month's magazine. It was Dave Bradshaw's article about like the history of buildings that WrestleMania has been in. Right. And I am a guy, Tempest, that's like, don't care. I have absolutely zero interest in where WrestleMania takes place. It could take place in Bumble Balls, New Jersey, and I don't care because I'm not going to go there. So I don't care where WrestleMania is based or where it's set or what the stage looks like and this and the other. And then I read Dave Bradshaw's magazine article and I'm like, oh, this is the most interesting thing on the planet. Like, this is a fascinating article about the history of these buildings and stuff. So yeah, highly, highly recommended by us. And just last thing before we get into this. Can I get some appreciation in the chat for moderator CM Chris, because it is his last show today. A wonderful, wonderful moderator, has been a superb help to us here at WrestleTalk, and this is his final show today. So yeah, please give everyone a massive round of applause to Chris in the chat. Thank you so much, my friend. We'll see you down the road.
A big thank you. We could not do what we do without our mods. It doesn't get said enough.
I said this on the AEW show last night. If we didn't have our wonderful moderating team, it would be like the Fight TV streams of AEW pre-shows.
Oh God, the most toxic place on the internet.
The absolute worst. Okay, well, let's get into this bit of news then. So this actually happened kind of a couple of days ago, and then it just sort of like got picked up over the last sort of 24 hours or so. I actually missed out on this because I hadn't checked out the video yet. It was like on my to watch list, and it was in my podcast downloads and stuff. Denise Salcedo did her WrestleMania 38 predictions video with Dave Meltzer, Wrestling Observer newsletter, legendary figure within journalism, because the two work together on Figure 4 Online and that sort of stuff in the Wrestling Observer. Denise does her show over there. And in that, they obviously got to the Seth Rollins match, and Denise was talking about how like it's going to be Cody Rhodes, and this and the other. Well, you know, we're going to presume that it's Cody Rhodes. Now, I've got the direct quote here, but rather than have the quote, why don't we actually watch the clip ourselves together and see what Dave said at this point?
What if it wasn't Cody Rhodes? What if they did like this massive, just swerve and it wasn't Cody Rhodes? What would you think the reaction to that would be?
Depends on who it is. It better be somebody good, because the people, well, it's everyone expects it, and they kind of have to deliver it, I suppose. I mean, if it's not him, it's his choosing. It's not theirs. They believe it's him. They believe that's the guy. If for whatever reason he backs out because he's going to back out, I don't expect that to happen. But I mean, I know people close to him who do. So what the hell? We'll have to see how it plays out.
And
that right there, it's fairly interesting. So the key part of that is WWE believe it is Cody versus Seth. They believe that's the guy. If for whatever reason he backs out, it's because he is going to back out. I don't expect that to happen, but I know people close to him who do. Tempest, we got this quote given to us like while we were live on the AEW stream yesterday, so I didn't really get a chance to kind of like reflect on it or like think about it much or anything like that. And I've now had a bit of time to ruminate on it, but I want to ask you first. There's the clip. We've reviewed the footage back and to the left. What do you make of it?
Well, first, I just want to say that I'm a good friend of Denise, and I had already watched this clip live as it was happening because I like to support my friends. But that being said,
on that note, the link, the video is linked to in the video description down below because we are also friends.
Yes. Isn't it so funny? I feel like this whole Cody Rhodes thing has like irritated people, like I feel like there's a large portion of the wrestling audience right now who's just like, oh, well, just show up or don't. I'm tired of the rumors and speculation. I just want to know. Isn't it wild that we've got like the biggest jump from AEW to WWE right at WrestleMania season with like a potential appearance at WrestleMania? Like if this took place in another era, that's like, imagine that taking place with WCW and WWE. Like a big WCW star jumps to WWE right before WrestleMania, and people are like, I'm tired of hearing about it. I don't want any more speculation. But I do kind of get it at the same time. It is like a lot of, well, he's going to show up this Monday, maybe. He doesn't show up. Oh, well, maybe he's going to show up next Monday in Jacksonville. Doesn't show up. And I'm like, okay. I would be less annoyed if I didn't have to sit through Raw to see if you're going to show up.
The amount of people you saw on Twitter being like, I watched Raw expecting to see Cody Rhodes and the goddamn prick didn't show up. Like, stop making me watch Raw to see if Cody's going to be here.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't really know what to make of all of this. If I was a betting man, and I am, but I don't bet on wrestling because I know better, I would probably say it's still going to be him. I would probably side with, go along with what Dave is saying here, where it's like he doesn't expect it to happen, but it could still happen. You never know. And if Cody Rhodes wants to end up being like Brian Pillman of this generation and just go like, yeah, book me a WrestleMania match with some promotion and everything and some intrigue. Like, of course, this is the way to do it, because if he does back out, you just get someone else. But again, that would kind of hamstring the match if it's not this guy that everyone kind of expects it to be, unless that answer is really good. So I don't know. I would think the most logical answer is just it's going to be Cody Rhodes, but there will be a part of me thinking like it's going to be Shane McMahon. It's going to be Shane McMahon.
I am under the impression that this is a combination of a few things. I think it's Cody. Like, I think it's 100p gonna be Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania, and he's gonna face Seth Rollins, and I think they're gonna have a real good match. And Cody's gonna go back to WWE, and we will see what happens in 6 weeks' time. Like, that's gonna be the real big test of Cody's run in WWE and his big return. I am so confident that it is Cody Rhodes, but it is WrestleMania season. And what happens around WrestleMania season is WWE plays silly beggars with wrestling journalists. I have had this happen to me firsthand, where someone has said to me within WWE, this is going to happen at WrestleMania. It was around the Royal Rumble. I'm not going to go into more details than it happened around a Royal Rumble. I'm not going to say which year it was and who it was around. But like around a Royal Rumble, this is going to happen. And this is going to happen at WrestleMania. And I was like, okay, cool. I didn't like do anything with it because, like, you know, I'm not a journalist, I'm not a reporter or anything like that. So I just sort of sat on that information. I was like, well, that's kind of interesting to know. Did it happen? Did it bollocks? Like, and it didn't. And that's because what WWE do around this period of time is feed out a lot of false information to try and muddy the waters and keep some surprises going. It's actually a really, really smart tactic. Ollie and I recently did for WrestleTalk Extra Royal Rumble. Damn it, which one was it?
Oh,
no, it wasn't. No, it was the Elimination Chamber review. Sorry, I do apologize. It was in February. We did the 09 Elimination Chamber, the one where Edge won, like he lost his title in one and then won the title in the other. A great night of pay-per-view action it was. And we were reading through the Observer, like at that time, and the Figure 4. And at that point in time, Vince was furious, absolutely furious that the WrestleMania card had already been figured out by fans and was blaming dirt sheet writers and Meltzer and Alvarez and all of these guys for leaking this sort of information and blaming the wrestlers for leaking this sort of information out. The argument that Brian Alvarez made in Figure 4 was just like, anyone who's watching the product can see what the WrestleMania card is. Like, you have been setting matches up since Survivor Series that are then going to pay off at WrestleMania. So all we're doing is we're just jumping to logical conclusions. It's not our fault that you're telling a good story and we are following that story. Like, surely that's a good thing. So I think that WWE have kind of gone out of their way in the last few years to to send out a lot of butt information to try and get people to trip them up, maybe get them to report some false info. It accomplishes two goals. Number one, it keeps things under wraps and it keeps fans guessing, which is a massive positive. Number two, the one I like least, or I like lesser, is it's a way for them to say down the line, if someone does report something that, you know, they don't want them to say, like, well, they reported this thing that was wrong. It's also a way to discredit Meltzer, Alvarez, Sean, and all of these guys. So I think it's twofold. I think that's why the Shane McMahon news came out to Mike Johnson. I think that's why Mike Johnson was fed that Shane's going to be at WrestleMania weekends.
I think it could well be. And I always laugh going back to like that same WrestleMania you were talking about in 2009. Because I tweeted like a week ago or something because it was going to be Christian who was the one who was attacking Jeff Hardy and everything. They were going to build to WrestleMania and everything. And then people figured it out and were chanting, "We want Christian," not, "Hey, we figured out it's Christian." Hard to chant that. And they switched it to Matt Hardy and everyone went, "Oh, that's dumb. We didn't want that."
They had a bad match then at Mania. They had a bad match.
Yeah, that was, I think, the very first time I ever thought WWE was stupid. I've been watching for like a year. I was like 12 and I didn't quite get everything, but I was like really looking forward to Christian coming in because I was like starting to watch TNA and I like just caught him going out the door. Obviously knew who he was and everything. And I was like, oh, Christian's going to come in. We're going to get like more Edge Christian Jeff Hardy content. And then they switched it for the sake of switching it because people figured it out despite that being what they wanted.
Yeah,
idiots. Regardless, yes, I think you're right, and I do think that what a weird company, what a weird business it is. You know, like I can't imagine. I know it happens in other industries, but I can't imagine like feeding sports reporters false information to discredit them in situations like this. The big ones, the top level ones. Like, why would you do that? The journalism aspect of pro wrestling is supposed to help the pro wrestling. It's not supposed to tear everything down. It's not supposed to make businesses look bad. And that's just kind of because they do that themselves. So I don't really like the idea of, and I know Dave even went on Twitter like a few days ago, or did it in one of his Observer radios, where he said like he's being fed false information and he knows it, and he's been doing this a long time. So he's like, he doesn't run with the false information until he can get it, confirmed, journalism in it. But just like, this is what they do around this time. They will feed out information to different people to try and throw them off the scent of what actually is happening. I think that's lame, but I still think at the end of the day, we're still probably going to see Cody at WrestleMania out of it.
Well, that's it. But like I think in this case, it has almost worked. We were doing the WrestleMania 38 predictions stream, and it was me, Pete, Adam, and Andy. And like every now and again, we would just be like, hey, but what if it is Shane? And like, what if it isn't Cody? Like, what if Cody, like someone sent an ultra chat in to the AEW podcast yesterday being like, what if Cody's on Ring of Honor tonight? What if he's at Supercard of Honor and he's not actually going to be on the show? And I think the information that has kind of come out here, and I do think that, the people close to Cody that told Dave this are probably trying to like, create a little bit of suspense, a little bit of intrigue here. I think they're doing it for that reason, and I think it's pretty smart, and I'm kind of here for it in a little way. But like as I said, the second side of it, where it's the discrediting, and that's like, so we put out a tweet earlier saying this is what our topic of conversation is going to be today. The first couple of replies that we got from people were super mad about it because there's something about Dave Meltzer reporting on wrestling that really, really pisses people off. And it basically boils down to two names, Bruce Pritchard and Eric Bischoff, because they did podcasts. Does Bruce still do a podcast? I know Eric still does his.
I have no idea, honestly. I've kind of gotten away from having to transcribe quotes for the website, and it's really helped my blood pressure, not having to go through Bruce Pritchard and Eric Bischoff quotes.
Yeah. Because I stopped listening to Something to Wrestle a long ass time ago because I got sick of the formula, which is that like Conrad will read something from the Observer. He'll read a paragraph from the Observer, and there'll be 5 things in there. And then Bruce will say, that was right, that was right, that was right, that was right, that was wrong. 100% of what Dave reports is wrong. And he'll just say, like, Dave makes all of his stories up. He gets fed wrong information all the time. He never actually gets anything firsthand. Is this, that, and the other? And then often times we'll say, yeah, that was in the Observer, and it was true. And it just becomes a very exhaustive thing. Bischoff is more of is more petty because books have been written about how inept he was as a businessman when he was running WCW. So he's now just like, it wasn't my fault. Those books are lying. And here we are in 2022. We put out a tweet saying Dave Meltzer said this. One of the replies I got, Dave Meltzer also said Mabel's going to be the third guy. In 2022, someone is still saying that to me. Yeah. Like, do yourself a favor. Do a bit of reading. Like, just dig into it, because what you will find is that lots of wrestlers will say, yeah, Mabel was talked about to be the third guy. Also, you'll see that Dave Meltzer wrote it was going to be Hogan. Like, it's just like that one thing, but Bischoff had that one thing, and people buy into it, and they buy into the bile from Bischoff and Pritchard, and they run with it to be like, no, Meltzer is wrong 100% of the time.
Drives me nuts. Like, it really does, and it's a shame, because I do really like Dave. I went through sports journalism and everything like that, and, being a big old wrestling nerd, in addition to sports reporters from real sports, I was looking at the Observers a lot, especially in those days. And yeah, it's not a shock that the people who are inept at booking wrestling don't like the guy who reports that they're inept at booking wrestling. That doesn't surprise me too much. But it's the legions of fans that would prefer to believe the people who are proven to be inept at wrestling over the person who's telling you that they're inept at wrestling. It's just it's the most pro wrestling fan base thing that I can really think of. And it is what it is. But hey, man, Meltz, I'm not saying he's right 100% of the time. I'm not saying he doesn't put his foot in his mouth every once in a while, but Dave's track record speaks for itself, you know. And you could bring up, oh, maybe it was the third man. Most of these things, like most of the typical gripes that people have against Dave, can be disproven in like 2 minutes of reading.
Quite easily so, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you know, right, like Meltzer's track record, it does speak for itself. He's not right 100% of the time, but the first person who will admit that is Dave Meltzer. Like, he is on record being like, because he's a journalist. Like, if you read The Observer, which I do every single week, there's a lot of retractions in there of being like, I had this, I misquoted this, and, you know, it's a retraction piece. He has like almost a whole segment to it, but he has every now and again be there. And like to the point where it was like, I would say that this was going to happen in this town, and I was wrong. It's actually happening in this town. Like that is the level of retractions that he will go to through The Observer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like again, that's what journalism is, you know. And people will never go to that. Like if he gets a town wrong or if he gets something wrong, they'll be like, "Well, idiot sees wrong," and they will ignore the retraction that comes right after that, where it'd be like, "Oh, where he corrects himself." You just ignore that part. It was like, "Oh, look at the time he was wrong," because that's the part that, you know, helps your argument. And it's just it's stupid. It's how people treat journalism kind of in general these days. But, you know, wrestling, I feel like I just see a lot more of, because obviously it's a shame. Be nice to the media. It's not the media's fault.
You know, apart from Fox. But
Yeah.
you know, like you can tell like how Dave really feels about this scenario. Like the clip I think is interesting because of Dave's like reaction. And that's why I wanted to play the video as opposed to just read out the quote, because I think that context is key in a lot of this. And I think Dave's context there is very, very important in the way that he delivers what he says. But here is what he wrote in this week's Observer. There were several changes made on the day on which day matches would be. Notably, Seth versus Cody Rhodes, brackets, presumably, is moved from Sunday to Saturday, and Edge versus AJ, originally on Sunday, was moved to Saturday and then was moved back to Sunday. So, like, he isn't saying in the Observer, like, oh, I have heard this. This is what people are saying. It was a throwaway line on a podcast that he was doing where I don't think, and that's the thing with Dave, and this happens a lot with him, is that sometimes he will just say, you know, something that he's heard, not really think much of it. There are also times when he'll say, I think this is going to happen, because he is using his 50 odd years of watching wrestling to just be like, well, I could probably picture this will be happening. And then there will be news websites that be like, Dave Meltzer is reporting this. And I think it's a case of just, I think he has been told by people close to Cody Rhodes that he may back out of WrestleMania, but I think that is just them trying to stir the pots.
You know, and yes, I agree. And that's a lot of news aggregators and such, and media literacy does not get taught at wrestling journalism school, it seems, a lot of the time, unfortunately. But it is what it is. I think over the last few years, I've truly become like the agent of chaos when it comes to WWE. Like, I am 100% rooting for the side of chaos just because I don't care anymore. I've given up on WWE being like a successful product. Every once in a while I can latch onto like either the Edge, Seth Rollins storyline, or the Roman Reigns, you know, his preamble with the Usos and whatnot. Those type of things I can kind of latch onto. In terms of WWE, I only want to see chaos. That's why Goldberg beat Bray Wyatt in Saudi Arabia. I was sitting there and I was like, just watching Twitter go up in flames. I was like, I don't care what they really do, but it's nutty. I want to see something nutty here. I want someone else to come out. I don't know if you like do it as like, oh, you swerve them and then Cody comes out or whatnot, or if Shane is just the guy. If Shane comes out, I'll laugh. I'll cry.
Man, I think there is a lot of fun to be had with working the fans. Like, you know, when like Mania, I want to say 33. It's one where the Hardys came back, right? That was 33.
Yep.
I'm a Quizlemania champion. So like that was a really fun show because everyone in that building knew the Hardys were going back, because the news had broken out that they had their Ring of Honor match the night before, and then they were going to go back to WWE. This was widespread knowledge. I would wager 98% of that audience at WrestleMania knew. And there was a large portion watching at home that knew. I was chatting with a lot of my friends on that day that were still watching wrestling at that point, being like, Hardys are coming back tonight, and that's going to be really cool. I wonder what they're going to do here. Will they be a fourth team? Will they just announce that they're back or something like that? And then when the New Day came out, and everyone was like, oh, oh, maybe it's not the Hardys then. I guess New Day are adding themselves into this match. And then they sort of dragged it out, and then said, but who could it possibly be? And it was like, oh, and then there's a Hardys music here, and it was awesome. So good. You have the potential to do that again with this, because not even 98%, 100% of that WrestleMania crowd are going to expect it's Cody Rhodes, or are going to be aware of the Cody Rhodes news. And I would wager a large portion of them are also aware of the Shane McMahon news.
Yep.
So you could do so much fun with winding that crowd up.
Oh, I think you really could. That Hardy Boys moment is like, I'm not gonna lie, it's like one of the best moments of my life.
Best ever, right?
Yeah, like I recorded that because I was like, it's gonna be the day. I was watching it with a group of friends, and we're all huge Hardys marks, just love the Hardys. We were talking about getting Hardys tattoos after that. It never ended up happening, thankfully. But like we set up a little camera to like record our reactions, and like literally we're sitting there and they're all in the ring, and the New Day music starts, and you literally just see us go, it's happening. It's happening. Like it's shocking. Like we're all just like, you hear one voice kind of go, what? And the rest of us just kind of go, oh, it's happening. It's happening. So I think if you just have Seth Rollins come out, and like if you hit Shane's music and then have him like introduce Cody, I think there's a lot of fun to be had with what you can do. If it's just Cody Rhodes music hits and he comes out, they'll be like, it's Cody. But like, this is a real interesting and fun opportunity to like play with it a little bit. Absolutely. And I hope they do something fun and creative with it.
A question I got for you, because when I was putting together the metadata for this, and I'm quite interested in the Cody story and this and the other, and like at one point it was like the biggest talking point. Like the Cody Rhodes news was so big it overshone Stone Cold Steve Austin making a possible in-ring return for WrestleMania, having his first match in 19 years. Like that news completely fell off a cliff because everyone was just talking about Cody Rhodes. When I was putting together the metadata for this, it was funny to see how there has been a decline in interest in terms of like Cody Rhodes related searches. I'm actually not expecting this video to perform that well afterwards. So, after we finish this and go with a lot of replay views, because I don't think there is actually that huge amount of interest in Cody news now. And people, the sort of speculation about it. You said, at the start of this, we had all the rumor and speculation about Cody, and now there's more rumor and speculation about the rumor and speculation. Do you think that the stove has gone cold with Cody Rhodes making the jump from AEW to WWE?
This is not how I would have done it. If you were going to do this, he should have been on Raw next week. Like, you strike while the iron is hot. And granted, maybe he hadn't decided that's what he wanted to do. And fair play to that. He's a businessman. You make the decisions that you're going to make. You, in this situation, like, wrestling is very funny in that. Like, it doesn't matter when a free agent signs with a new team. And no one cares about, like, the pop, the first rating of seeing that player play on a new team. That doesn't matter. You will have people care a lot less if you let the stove go cold with wrestling. You really kind of have to strike while interest has peaked for something like this. And I just don't think that we've had that. I think that the interest on Cody in general has kind of dissipated, and I think it dissipated fairly quickly, because I was looking at, like, we put out lists of Cody Rhodes moments and such on PFK, and they've done well over time, possibly because, his name hasn't completely gone away, but I think they would have done better had he debuted on Raw that same week they came out. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's just me being like, I want our content to do better. But I think it just kind of speaks to, like, all content would do better if you strike when the iron's hot. And that's not our content. That's WWE content. A lot of people were watching Raw that week, to see if Cody was going to show up. And you will have people less every week come back and be like, well, maybe he's going to be on next week. I watched Raw 3 times to see if Cody was going to be on it, and I am not watching it again. I don't care. If he doesn't show up at WrestleMania, if it's, he's going to show up on Raw, that's fine. I'll catch a replay. I'll see the clip. I'm not,
Yeah.
but you need to do it when the interest is there, because it's the law of diminishing returns. If you keep baiting people, and I'm not saying they're doing that because
Yeah,
it's people like kind of getting
that's
worked up
it.
at
Yeah.
like, oh, is Cody going to be on Raw? And that's fine. And I'm not going to blame WWE for that. But if he's there, if he is signed, you probably should have put him on TV soon.
Yeah, I agree with that to a degree. I think the rumor, the story is that it's only recently that he has signed his contract. So like they weren't going to put him out on TV the following week. So like I think sort of like maybe the delays between parties has perhaps like removed some of the interest and intrigue from fans on this. But like the Jacksonville show, I think is probably the peak of that. Where like the Cody Rhodes news had sort of like done a massive sort of dip off of an interest. And then it was like, oh, it's in Jacksonville. And that was when Twitter and all these sort of places, and we talked about it. I was like, well, if they're gonna do it, you'd imagine they will do it at the Jacksonville show. No one reported it was going to be at the Jacksonville show. Like Sean never said anything, Dave never said anything. People blamed us. People blamed WrestleTalk for being like, you told us it was going to happen. I was like, oh wait, I think we speculated that it might happen, because I think a lot of people speculated that it might happen, and when it didn't happen, that interest just dived off again. And that following week, there was not that interest again. Is Cody going to show up? Because I don't think people thought it was going to be at the Chicago show. And I'm just very curious to see now. And I'm always keeping track of comments, keeping track of the live chats here about, people's interest in Cody showing up. And I think it is kind of at its lowest until the Shane McMahon news. And I think the Shane McMahon news has actually added a whole level of spice to this that wasn't there 2 weeks ago.
I don't think you're wrong, because again, you just need to put a little smidgen of doubt in there. Maybe at that point the next report isn't, oh, Cody at WrestleMania, it's someone else at WrestleMania. Maybe Cody's not going to be at WrestleMania. Then the intrigue starts up a little bit. Now what happens is Shane comes out and he introduces Veer, and Veer is Seth Rollins' opponent.
That would get a genuine pop from that crowd, though. Like that hardcore traveling audience.
And maybe that's how you do it. And that's how you get out of putting Cody Rhodes on WrestleMania and put him on Raw on the next night or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not advocating that they do that. But
I said this to Pete on the Raw review. I was like, saving Veer for the Raw after Mania is one of the smartest things this company has ever done, because you want to talk about a crowd that's going to be 100% behind Veer and the meme. It's that crowd. Don't do it in front of like last week's crowd or anything like that. You do it in front of that Raw after Mania crowd, because they will go ballistic for Veer and will cheer every single thing that man does, even if it's butts, even if it's absolutely toilet wrestling. That crowd will treat him like he is Stone Cold Steve Austin.
I don't think you're wrong. I still think there's like a 30% chance that he doesn't show up on that Raw, because I don't trust them. I don't trust them, but if that's the plan, debut him on the Raw after WrestleMania, I think that is smart booking.
Well, let's hear what you've got to say about this, because we've got a bunch of Ultra Chats on this topic, which is superb to see. Thank you all so much. That's WrestleTalk.com/support to get your thoughts in on this conversation. Also, while you're clicking links, head on over to WrestleShop.com and pick up your copy of the WrestleTalk magazine for just £1 Great British pound, and excellent t-shirts like the ones we're currently wearing. And please do subscribe to this channel as well, because we've got a bunch of shows coming up this weekend. Tomorrow it is going to be the SmackDown and Rampage review. Myself and Ollie Davis will be doing that. Me and Ollie doing a podcast together. It feels like it's been ages since we've done one of those. And then it's going to be live reactions to night 1 and night 2 of WrestleMania. Myself, Adam, Andy, and Pete. 2 titles are on the line across both nights, and reviews of both the night 1 and night 2 with myself and Ollie Davis. And me and Pete will be doing live reactions to that Raw after Mania. And then me and Ollie Davis will be doing the review of that Raw. I hope people like me, because you're going to see a lot of me over this weekend.
I like you.
Oh, thanks, man. As long as you do, I'm happy. Yeah. Peter Mullins says, following WWE's debuts has become some form of a new kink. There was Veer's record-breaking edging. Now Cody teasing so hard that not even WWE knows if he's signed. What the hell, Cody? My body can't take this anymore. I feel vulnerable. Hold me, Tempest. Pete also adds here, I've heard of people say if Cody doesn't turn up, it constitutes promotional malpractice. Would you go that far? If not Cody, who'd patch it well? I would massively disagree with that, because never at any point have WWE said Cody Rhodes is going to be at WrestleMania. Not a they have led teases, because they have said things like Seth Rollins' WrestleMania dreams have become a nightmare. They have had like, the undeniable thing, but they have never at any point said Cody Rhodes is going to be at WrestleMania. So if Cody is not there, ain't WWE to blame then. Absolutely no one at all.
No. But I will say, if Cody is not there, and then he shows up on Raw, and then it just becomes a decision, not like you bait and switched us. I don't care about the bait and switch thing. I just care about like booking the best thing. Then I'll be questioning it if he shows up later. But in terms of promotional malpractice and such, I disagree with that.
Yeah, massively disagree. It's like when we used to do the first round of AEW like live reactions to pay-per-views, when CM Punk did not show up, people got real mad and be like, worst show I've ever seen. I was like, AEW never said that Punk was coming in. This was back in like All Out 2019.
Yeah, we never have to deal with that ever again.
Edward Burke said, I really hope Cody backs out just to watch the internet burn. Oh, it will be. Ten Rosa, the main story is the last minute addition of Suzuki to Super Card of Honor. That is going to be incredible. If Cody doesn't show up, I will howl. Cody will be on Super Card of Honor. Love to Taylor Hawkins. You were and are a legend. Tempest, you're my foos brother. I love you guys. And I was going to say, like, I haven't had a chance to talk to you about that, dude. Like, I was rocked real hard by that news. Real hard. And it was kind of nice that I got to see my brother on that day. Like, my brother came over with his girlfriend so we could hang out with the kid and stuff. And me and Benjamin have been to so many Foo Fighters gigs together, and I have lost count of the amount of times that I have seen them live. And they were always one of my favorite live acts. And, Dave Grohl is a huge part of that, because of course he's the front man. Taylor brought a heck of a lot of that. He brought so much energy to those shows. And so they're some of my favorite gigs I've ever been to.
Yeah. In terms of myself buying a ticket, going to a concert, like the full concert experience, like the Foo Fighters were like the first concert that I really went to. I'd been to other shows, but in different circumstances for sure. This sucked. I went to visit my lady partner over the weekend, and we were just like grabbing a bite to eat in a bar, just like catching up. And I like looked up at the TV and I saw like Foo Fighters, Taylor Hawk, and it cut to something else. And I was like, what did that say? What did that say? Look that up. She's like, oh, calm down, relax. And I was like, no. I got a bad feeling. Sure enough, I looked it up, and yeah, I just kind of was a little bit devastated for the rest of the weekend, more or less. And of course, naturally, I don't know where I've put it now, but that was also the weekend that my Foo Fighters keychain broke, as if the universe was just like, oh. So I'm very glad that I got to see the Foo Fighters live one time. I was planning on going to see them at Osheaga 2020. And that never happened, so that stings a little bit. But yeah, man, it just really sucks.
Yeah, there've been a couple of times over the last few years, pre-pandemic, where I've turned down the option to go see Foo Fighters gigs for whatever reason, just whatever happened. But like now, I'm kind of gutted about that. And there are times like Primus are touring the UK later on, like in September, and it has made me go like, man, I should really go see Primus, because I haven't seen them in 10 years. And I missed them the last couple of times they came over for various reasons. So I'm actually kind of like thinking to myself, I really should go and see them perform this year.
Go see your favorite bands, people. Don't wait.
Claude Gaudet says, I think one day Cody decided that everything from his creative direction to his contract status needed to be handled in as maddeningly convoluted and unsatisfying a manner as possible. And it stubbornly refuses to be even half as clever as he thinks it is. Oh, that's
I don't even know.
That's very good, Claude. That really made me laugh. Dawn of Rock said, I feel like some of the people getting annoyed about the Cody Rhodes news are suffering from the same effect of, say, hearing the same song repeatedly on the radio. If Here Comes the Money plays over the loudspeaker, I'm gonna pop off.
Oh, I'm gonna laugh so hard.
I know,
So hard. I just want this company to make me laugh. You know, I want them to put a smile on my face. Not for the reason they want, but just put a smile on my face. If I had fun watching Raw and SmackDown, if I could laugh at the show every week, oh, it'd be so fun. It'd be so fun.
Jonathan Hedman, who's been a member for 8 months, said, if it's not Cody, it would be an injustice to debut. Would it be an injustice to debut, say, Gable Steveson, as fans would instantly hate him?
I think it all depends on how good Gable Stevenson's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if he literally is like Kurt Angle, you could put him in the ring right now and he will be like decent to good. I think that's like an option. I don't know that I would do it. The number one option to me here is still Cody. You know, I'm never going to say, oh, do that instead of Cody. But if you're going to swerve people, if Gable Steveson can pull it off, I also think like most people should probably go through like 2 years of wrestling training first. But you know, it's tough sometimes with
you
WWE.
say that,
Ronda didn't do that.
Like, yeah, no, you say that, but like, look what Randy Orton had to say about the Performance Center. Like, maybe is that actually the best option?
That's a very good point. Well, no, I don't think anybody who wants to wrestle should go and get trained at the Performance Center. But that's a separate issue entirely.
Good as a Randy Orton at the very least.
It sucks.
I was gonna say,
I spent like millions of dollars on a performance center that can't produce talent.
Peter Mullen said, guys, I've got the winning idea. The ultimate booking. Shane's music hits, and out comes Veer, who unzips himself, and it is Cody. Adrenaline in my soul. Then Cody unzips himself, and it's Emelina finally debuting. I call it the Babushka Doll Gambit.
It's a solid idea. And before people take what I say out of context, yes, they have a few success stories out of the Performance Center. I will give them their props. They've got a Roman Reigns here, a Charlotte Flair there, but
Bianca
generally over the last 10 years, their track record is less than positive. You gotta say these things, otherwise you make people mad.
Certainly according to Randy Orton anyway, because like Randy Orton likes a certain style of wrestling. Yeah. That certain style is do not drop me on my head. Do not be doing dives on me.
Do not hit me hard.
Yeah.
I wonder how he had so many rivalries with Sheamus over the years.
I know. Like I've said this a lot on the podcast, but watch Randy Orton in a Money in the Bank ladder match. You've never seen a man work so hard to not take a bump. It's the funniest thing.
The older I get, the more I relate to Randy Orton.
Oh yeah,
you know,
like the more I watch him, the more I'm like, man, he's the smartest wrestler of the last 20 years.
Yep. It's the people that do the least amount of work for the most amount of money that I was like, you know what? Maybe you are the best wrestler. You know, the best wrestlers are Orange Cassidy, Brock Lesnar, and Randy Orton.
Kevin Nash. I've got my 5 moves.
Yeah, you know. This is a whole separate conversation. But every once in a while, Kevin Nash's name gets brought up, and I was like, do I blame you for going and having like the time of your life, making the most money that I could possibly imagine with your friends and just hanging out and goofing off on wrestling shows? And like, I wouldn't have enjoyed watching it week to week at the time, but like as a dude, I mean, he kind of hit the jackpot with life. So like, go for it. Like he had a really fun and enjoyable time with his friends in a really weird business making a lot of money.
It's so weird, like, because you hear those Kevin Nash, like, and I want to say you hear those Kevin Nash stories. They're stories from Kevin Nash.
From him.
Like, we would do house shows and we would look at the curtain, see what the attendance is, and then be like, "No, we've already got their money. Like, we didn't have to try tonight. Like, there's not that many people there." And like, as a wrestling fan, you're like, "Man, that's such an infuriating. This is why wrestling in the '90s sucked. This is why people like Kevin Nash are terrible for the business and work great wrestlers. Like, that's what we wanted from that era. Is why Jericho and Guerrero and Benoit and all this sort of stuff." And yet now the older I get, I'm like, well, fair play to him. Like, he had a grand old time.
Like, I just hang out with my friends and I was like, what would we do if we were all just in a wrestling company? And I can't guarantee it would be much less than like what the Clique would do, minus, the abhorrent amount of drug use, but like in terms of just entertaining ourselves at shows instead, I can't say that I wouldn't be trying to just pop myself and my 3 or 4 friends behind the curtain if I went to like a big house show and you're on the road 30 days in a row and you're just entertaining yourself at that point. It's like fair play. You know, I get it.
Can I hot tag to you for some of these Ultra Chats?
Absolutely. Bacon Rasher says, "Hi lads, great to have LIW across WrestleTalk a lot recently. All is fine with LIW." Yes, it is. I've got one question only. Is it strange we hit WrestleMania weekend that WrestleMania is the show I'm looking forward to the least? So much better going on. If I was in Dallas, I don't know I would go.
This is pure WrestleMania season again. We haven't had a WrestleMania weekend like this since 2019, where it's not just WrestleMania. There's other stuff going on around as well. And when I look at those lineups, man, on those GCW shows and like the Collective and Mission Pro and Big Gay Brunch and all the stuff, I'm like, yeah, these are the shows that I would be super pumped to go and see. And I've really, really missed that from Mania weekends of just like shows out the wazoo of like really amazing stuff. And then going on Twitter the following day, like going on Twitter this morning was a delight from everyone just tweeting out video clips and stuff from the GCW show to the point where I'm like, I need to go and watch that now. And it is something I haven't had a chance to do it today, but I've got some graphics I need to make up after the stream. So I'm going to be having it on in the background while I'm doing that. And I'm looking forward to it so much.
There's so many fun shows WrestleMania weekend. Like, I can't wait to watch Bloodsport. I just couldn't make it work last night. But like, I'm seeing clips and people are going nuts for Bloodsport, and I was like, oh, I can't wait to watch it. Like, there's so many good shows. And I swear I would go to WrestleMania week and not go to the main show. I would hit so many shows, whether it be Big Gay Brunch and everything that GCW is doing, or doing Supercard of Honor. I would probably even go to NXT and just say, you know what, that's the end of my week. I'm done. I don't need to watch any more WWE.
Like, it is so. I see. Like, I think the Moxley match at Bloodsport was an absolute banger.
Oh
yeah, I heard that it is a brutal.
Yeah. Oh, I saw a clip. It was Ninja Mac. I forget who was wrestling, so I apologize. He hits a kick. It's like the best kick I've ever seen in wrestling. it looks like Will Ospreay's the Robinson special where he flips over and hits the kick, but the guy's standing and he literally gets like driven into the mat at ridiculous speed. It's the greatest thing I've ever seen, and I might just talk myself into going watching Bloodsport after this now.
You should do.
Yes. So we've got Sean D saying, "Hey lads, thanks for entertaining me daily while I work nights at a service station. I listen to all the podcasts and I low-key think the NXT podcast is the best. I just want to know what matches you are most looking forward to on day 1 and day 2.
Good question. Let's get that up.
Edge and AJ Styles is number 1, and I don't know what's on night 2. I don't know like what is on which night.
I was gonna say, well, Edge Styles is on night 2.
Oh, good. So that match on night 2, and I guess Becky and Bianca, is that on night 1?
Yeah, that is. Yeah, Becky Bianca, I think, is the match I'm most looking forward to night 1.
Those are the only 2 matches I'm looking forward to. So they're on separate nights. That's convenient.
Having said that, like, you know, Rollins versus Rhodes, or Rollins, whoever it is, I'm like, it's the match I've got so much intrigue going into. For night 2, I think it probably is Edge Styles, though I'm not hugely into the Edge heel turn.
No,
I wish it had just been a babyface versus babyface match, like 2 generational wrestlers. Like, that's kind of what I wish the build with it. More like Rock Hogan, but without, you know, Hogan driving a semi-truck into him and this sort of stuff. But the match I think on paper I'm most looking forward to on that is the triple threat tag match for the Raw tag titles. RK Bro, Alpha Academy, Street Profits, because the match they had on Raw was so great. And like running that match
might be better than anything on WrestleMania.
Absolutely, right? And like for running that match back and putting the Street Profits in there instead, I am so in for. Like, I think it's going to be absolutely awesome as long as it's given time. Like, if it gets 15, 20 minutes, amazing. If it gets 8, probably not.
Yeah, I mean, I remember thinking the same thing about the Bludgeon Brothers Usos New Day match.
Yep.
At WrestleMania 34 and went like 4 minutes, right? So.
Yep. I remember, like, you'll see. Me and Ollie on like our prediction stream were just like, this has the potential to be DIY versus Authors of Pain versus, like, you know, and it had the option to be that, and it was not, because it went 4 minutes, including entrances.
Oh man. Merjan Daha says, has been a member for 2 months. Very nice. I will not be surprised if Vince picks himself to fight Seth. Forget Pat McAfee. Seth Rollins I want. Dylan Jason Voorhees says, this will be my first WrestleMania since 24. My first WrestleMania. I'm a bit annoyed that I'm going to be close to the front and await to see my favorite wrestler. I'm going to be close to the front and await to see my favorite wrestler, but not his new theme song. I'm guessing he means Edge. After Mania, where do you see Edge going? I think he'll be world champion again.
I think he'll feud with AJ a bit longer. I think they'll run this match back at next couple of pay-per-views.
I think that could well be. I don't know. He doesn't seem to have like a perfect opposite on the roster, like waiting for him afterwards. I don't see like the next thing, because for a long time it was like, oh, well, he's got to eventually have a feud with Seth, because it'll tie everything back. People want to see that. And then after that, it was like, oh, he's got to face AJ. After Seth and after AJ, I'm like, who else we got? Who's next? Like what's the next Edge match that I want to see? There are a few. I still want to see him face like Finn Balor and people like that. There are matches, but I don't know where the storyline direction takes him immediately after that. Probably more rematches, but we'll see. Card Marks Podcast says, good morning from Texas. Jerry Jones' house is too expensive to attend Mania this year, but I am stoked to see the Battle of the Belts. Love you guys and all you do. Even Pete. Subscribe to the Card Marks Podcast on YouTube and follow us on Twitter. Yeah. Battle of the Belts. We'll see. First one didn't light the world on fire.
Yeah. It was
fine.
like, it was fun, wasn't it? It was all right.
It was one of those like fine episodes of Rampage.
I would
probably won't think of that again. Yeah.
I think this one will be bigger because it'll probably be Paige Cole too, and I'd imagine they'll probably do Rosa Nyla Rose, which I think will be real good. So like this has got every chance to be much better than the first one.
Do you think they could I guess that wouldn't involve belts. Nah, never mind. I was gonna say, like, get a few more belts and then do FTR and Bucks 2 at a Battle of the Belts or something like that. I would watch that.
I think there was something in the Observer today. I'm going to quickly double check this now, but I think there was something in the Observer today about the Bucks going for the AAA titles.
Oh, those are belts.
They are belts.
I mean, FTR might be like Ring of Honor tag champions by the end of the weekend. So
absolutely, and I think they will be as well.
I think they will be as well.
Yeah, Young Bucks said on Twitter they are planning on being AAA Tag Team Champions before the Triple Mania card, which will be on the 30th of April. So that does offer the chance that it is on Battle of the Belts.
I don't know. I think there might be something to that. Brandon Agius says, the best way for WWE to troll their fans is for Shane's music to hit and Shane comes out, and then the bell rings and Shane starts to wrestle until boom, swerve, surprise. Nothing happened. Shane wins. That would be a swerve. You're not wrong. It would be. Mayor of Painesville, Dan. Hi, Dan. Says, hey, Tempest. Hey, Luke. Of course we like you, Luke. I'm looking forward to you guys enhancing the show experience with your reaction. Cody's niece, Dakota Rhodes, daughter of Dustin, is getting married tomorrow, so maybe he is busy. Probably not.
Not being at your niece's wedding, eh? Cody, you massive heel. Knew it. Knew it all along.
Mike Guapo Mont says, has been a member for 11 months. Very nice. Says, Hank saying, hello, you lovely gentlemen. I love Luke's troll from a different video. Wrestling has more than one royal family. Here comes the money. LIW is fine. I want them to be fun. I want them to
man, there could be. Do you know what's funny as well? Like, one of the other things that's come out of this Cody Rhodes stuff is that I now know what the lyrics to that song are. Like, I never knew it was Adrenaline. Like, I never knew that's what the song was called. Like, I thought the song was called like Kingdom or something because that's what they said in the chorus, right? So I never knew it was like Adrenaline in my soul. Never knew those were the words until people started tweeting about it. And I was like, why do people keep saying Adrenaline on Twitter? What's all this about? And I'm like, oh, right. That's what Cody's theme was.
Yeah, something Cody Rhodes. Tyler Robinson says, do you think maybe Shane comes out to wrestle Seth, but Cody Rhodes comes out to defend Texas and America during the Stone Cold segment? That could be a reason it's going on last, and the Stone Cold rub would make Cody an instant megastar. No, I don't.
No, I don't think.
I don't think any of that is happening.
Yeah, I'm afraid I don't think any of that at all. Because, like, I think it'd be weird if Cody came out and started defending America. Like, and the draw of that segment isn't that. It's Austin. Like, Austin is the draw of that segment. So yeah. I would just leave it to Kevin and Steve. But also, I don't think it should be the main event. But that is just me.
Yeah.
I'll hot tag back.
He hasn't been attacking America. He's been attacking Texas. Cody's
Yeah,
not from
specifically.
Texas. Yeah.
It's Polo says,
Unfortunately,
was finally
too.
able to catch you guys live thanks to my class getting cancelled today. Super excited for Super Guard of Honor tonight. I'm hoping Yuta wins the pure title, and that is enough to impress the Blackpool Combat Club, and Regal brings him in.
I'm so happy for Wheeler Yuta. Seeing this guy, even if it doesn't go anywhere immediately, seeing this guy get this like little push, just he's one
So
of
good,
like
right?
my 3 or 4 guys where like 2 years ago I was like, I need to see Wheeler Yuta get signed, and now he's getting pushed with like Bryan Danielson and John Moxley, William Regal, and like, oh, it's just so much fun. I love watching like people develop on AEW. It's so rewarding.
As an update, the song is called Kingdom, apparently, so the more you know. Ten Ruzza, again, I will say I'm more excited to see the Mania stage and stadium atmosphere than Mania itself. I'm so excited for tonight. Can't wait to see what TK says at the end of the show. What will be your drink of choice during the weekend? Well, mine will be Beer 52 because they are sponsoring our entire WrestleMania weekend.
Quite lovely. Quite lovely. I don't know. Beer also. 52 beers. Beer is coming.
We've actually almost got that because they've just delivered 4 crates of it to the office as well. It arrived today, so I'm very excited to open up the newest box. Kevin said, hey guy, I was watching an old school WrestleTalk video about what NXT could learn from New Japan, and I was wondering what happened to the host of these videos. It was really good. I think his name was Big Brain or something like that. Anyways, have a nice WrestleMania weekend.
Yeah, whatever happened to that guy?
Whatever happened to that guy?
Whatever happened to that guy?
Chuck Cassidy has been a member for 8 months. Said, I love to listen to Cornette stories. He makes stories funny, but most of his comments are bin-worthy. Same with Eric and Bruce. Love y'all. God bless.
Well, yeah. I mean, Cornette is a better talker than either of those two, which helps when it comes to storytelling. But I mean, I can't listen to anything he says from like the last decade plus, you know. When he was talking about how bad WWE was in 2010, I was like, yeah, I can rock with this. And then there was like good wrestling. He's like, no, that's bad too. And I was like, it's not though.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, he's got his style. And sometimes I think what he says is kind of on the money, and then there are other times he says stuff I'm like, that's way off base. Yeah. And I said this on a podcast a few weeks back, but I think he has made a decision that Kenny Omega is bad. And there is just nothing that will change his mind. So despite the fact there is just like so much evidence to show that he's wrong, he was like, no, he once wrestled a blow-up doll. I think he's bad. And just nothing will change his mind on that. And sort of the stubbornness of that, I think, clouds a lot of his clouds people's opinions of some of his other takes.
I agree. I agree with that. Also, stop saying like sexist and racist things.
There's also that.
You know? That would help a lot.
Charles Berg, not a wrestling question, but what is your favorite part of Jackass Forever? For me, it was the airbag musical chair. Hope you guys have a great weekend. I've got lots of doggies to join me and watch the, hopefully, fun 2-night show. Take care.
I haven't seen it yet, Luke.
No,
I want to. It wasn't a movie that I could justify going out to the theater to see at that point, but I'll watch it. I'll watch it eventually. Yeah. I'm a child of the 2000s.
Oh yeah, I was a teenager of the 2000s. It was like I am going to be doing a stream on Sunday night where I am one of 4 people, and I'm the only one that likes Jackass. I'm the only one of the 4 that likes Jackass. Cannot believe that has happened. Like, I know 2 of them are 10 years younger than me, but Adam's borderline the same age as me.
I mean, I'm like 10 years younger than you, and right? I like Jackass. It's I don't know, it's weird. I just need to be on that stream to balance out the Jackass to non-Jackass fan ratio.
Exactly, Tempest. We do need you over here. Yeah. Mayor of Painesville, Dan, says, got to chat in again. I want to see Rammstein live, but they barely play gigs in Germany. And then when they do, they are sold out instantly. New album is coming out at the end of April. I cannot wait. Sometimes it just never works out. They're too big and famous. That's your problem there, Dan. That's your problem there, Dan. You like popular bands. Gonna be be like me and like bands that no one else likes. And you're able to buy tickets months later.
Yeah.
That's why Primers are playing here in the UK, and it's like the tickets have been on sale for like a month, and I can still get floor tickets and go and see them, and it's absolutely fine. And lastly, Brody Reed says, wasn't going to donate, but I saw your tattoo, Tempest, and I've got to say that Celeste rules. It's a great game about overcoming anxieties. F Golden Strawberries. Thoughts?
It's my favorite game of all time, and I have 2 tattoos. That one is a Celeste tattoo, and this feather is also a Celeste tattoo. So by far my favorite game. Thank you for your Ultra Chat. Made me smile. I might go play that game again.
Oh, I love that. And also, social media, Abby. And this is why we should have you on streams more often. I think you're absolutely on the money there, Abby. Welcome to the team, by the way. I don't think we've actually really got a chance to say that on a live stream yet. But yeah, I'm so bloody thrilled that social media Abby is now full-time social media Abby. It's so great to see. I'm so happy about it. But yes, thank you. Welcome to the team.
We had a nice little cheers moment on After Dark recently for Abby, and it was very nice. We're very happy.
Love to see it, and she's going to be in London very soon as well. So also really looking forward to that. All right. Anyway, we have got to get out of here. Tempest, thank you as always for joining me. And this show is sponsored by the WrestleTalk Magazine. Let me just hold up my physical edition of it, but you can get yourself a digital copy of it for just £1 singular pound or £10 for an entire year's subscription. It is a limited time offer, and spending that £1 a month supports WrestleTalk massively. It's the most affordable way ever to buy a WrestleTalk item. Print magazine will always still be available though. However, you do get the digital download. You get 7 days before the print edition. And as we open the door to social media Abby coming in, we must say goodbye to CM Chris. So one more time in the chat, please. Can we get a round of applause to moderator CM Chris, who has been a fabulous member of the team. And we will miss you greatly, my friend. Thank you for everything that you have done.
Very well said. Very well said. Again, we couldn't do what we do without our mods, and we appreciate you all, and it doesn't get said enough.
And you're absolutely right. It does not get said enough. And that is because we're terrible people. That is all we've got time for on this edition of the show. It is going to be a jam-packed weekend of WrestleTalk action here on the podcast channel, because we have got live reactions to both Night 1 and Night 2 of WrestleMania. We've got reviews of SmackDown WrestleMania, or WrestleMania SmackDown, whatever they're calling it, and AEW Rampage tomorrow. We'll have reviews of both Night 1 and Night 2 on Sunday and Monday, and live reactions to the Raw after Mania as well, with the debut of Veer. So please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We'll see you tomorrow. Jam that jam, everyone.